Harry owes millions in student loan debt. She is very broke and worked hard to pay off her debt. One day, her rich best friend offered to pay her to go on disguise to a blind date. The rich friend took her to an expensive boutique and bought luxury clothes for the date. The rich friend also did her makeup and glammed her up. Hari arrived at the five-star hotel looking very rich. She was being paid to impersonate her rich friend. The goal was for Hari to ruin the date so that a marriage arrangement would not be set up between the rich friend and the blind date. She sat down and waited for the date. He arrived a bit later, and when she turned to look at him, she found a very handsome man. Hari then introduced herself with the rich friend's name and took the man's business card. The man introduced himself as Kang Tae-moo. When she looked at the business card, she was shocked to find out that he was the president of the company she worked in. She immediately became nervous and excused herself to go to the restroom. She frantically called her friend, but the number was unreachable. She also contemplated running away, but decided to return to the date. Her hands were shaky while trying to pick up the teacup, but she braced herself and decided to carry on with the plan of jeopardizing the date. She suddenly removed her jacket and made suggestive gestures to the man. The man asked her if she's cold, and she said no. Seeing that he is unaffected by her actions, she decided to act like a lunatic obsessed with luxurious items. The man does not give her attention, but instead focused on his phone. When she saw his lack of interest, she complained that he wasn't interested in her. She then shaked her boobs and told him she had spent 10 million won on each boob. The man choked at her words and told her that he liked her honesty. She saw that her plans were not working and decided to drop the last bombshell. She suddenly announced that she would like them to get a room for the night. She said this to scare him away, but the man saw her shaky legs and agreed to her proposal. Hari became extremely nervous, seeing that none of her plans worked. She stood behind him as he booked a room and contemplated her next course of action. The man booked the room and gestured to lead her to the room. But Hari doesn't follow him. It was never part of the plan to sleep with the man. She was only paid to impersonate her rich friend and ruin the date. As she turned to run away, she bumped into a woman who immediately grabbed her hair and pulled her to a stop. The woman accused her of sleeping with her boyfriend. Hari is confused and denied the accusation. She begged the woman to let go of her hair before she gets caught by her date, who didn't know that she was trying to run away. But the man appeared and removed the strange woman's hand from her hair. The woman accused Hari of sleeping with her boyfriend in the hotel some hours ago. She showed a picture of a woman and a man walking into a hotel room holding hands. The woman in the picture wore the same clothes as Hari, but Hari continued to deny the accusation with the claim that her outfit was the latest in fashion and that anyone could wear the same outfit. As the woman tried to beat her, the man interfered and told the woman to settle the problem with her cheating boyfriend. He then walked out with Hari trailing behind him. As they walked out of the building, the man made a phone call to his driver. Hari walked behind him. Although she was embarrassed from the incident with the woman, she decided to use it to her advantage. The man thought it was a misunderstanding, but Hari walked over and boasted that she often cheated with more than 3 to 4 men. She continued to tarnish her image in order to make a bad impression on the man. But the strange woman appeared again and chased after her, almost causing her to be hit by a car. The man's driver appeared and they drove home. While in the car, the man's father called and asked him for updates on the date. The man responded that the date was already over, which made the father confused. He thought his son didn't like the date and decided to set up another one with another girl. But the son suddenly announced that he liked today's blind date and would like to marry her. The man's name is Kang Tae-moo, the only son from a chaebol family. He had recently returned from abroad to take over the company, but his father, the chairman, was worried about his love life and had set him up with multiple women. Tae-moo had explained to the chairman that he does not intend to marry, but the old father remained stubborn since he wanted grandchildren. The chairman had set him up with over 10 women in a day, and he was tired from the entire experience. To stop his chairman from setting him up with more women, he announced that he liked the blind date with Hari and would like to marry her. But what he didn't know is that Hari had impersonated her rich friend. Meanwhile, Hari met up with her rich friend and they celebrated her acting skill. Hari strongly believed she had left a bad impression on the man So she went with her friend to a karaoke party. As they celebrated happily, the rich friend received a phone call from her father. The father had called to tell her that the man had proposed marriage. Hari is shocked. She thought she had done a good job of scaring away the man, and they wonder why the man would decide to marry her. But Taemu only wanted to marry for business. He didn't care about emotions and wanted a woman who was open and honest. He saw this trait in Hari, so he made a firm decision to marry her. Hari and her rich friend are confused about what to do. She advised her friend to meet the man and confess their plan. She's also worried about running into the man at her workplace. And her fears became a reality when she ran late for work and couldn't enter the elevator early. She panicked and went to the only available elevator. But when it opened, she found the chairman with Taemu standing inside the elevator. She quickly covered her face and turned her back to them. But the chairman was carefree and told her to get into the elevator with them. She got in but stood close to the door to hide her face. She heard the chairman asking his son why he suddenly decided to marry, and she became tense because she knew was the one who went on a date with him. As soon as the elevator opened, she ran out, but suddenly heard the man call her real name. She thought she had been discovered and began to panic. But the man had picked up her employee ID in the elevator and wanted to return them. She walked backwards to hide her face and collected the ID from the man. Taemu found her real name familiar and browsed through the employee's record to find her name. She worked as a senior food researcher at his company and had previously proposed a plan that had caught his attention. He didn't recognize her as the girl he went on a date with because the picture on the employee record was without makeup. Hari was worried about being discovered by the man, so she called her rich friend to quickly confess before she got caught. The friend agreed to confess, but after meeting a handsome man and falling in love with him at first sight, she changed her mind and begged Hari to continue with the pretense. She told Hari to meet the man and reject the marriage proposal without revealing their secrets. So Hari went on another date with the man. Since she arrived early, she browsed through her phone to calm her nerves. When the man arrived, he gave her a phone call, but she didn't pick up because it was the rich friend's number he was calling. The man thought she had a second number and took her phone to get her number. When she complained about his behavior of taking her phone, he responded that he needed to have all her numbers since they would be getting married soon. Now that he talked of marriage, she bluntly told him that she didn't like arranged marriage and wouldn't marry him. She stood up and left, but he chased after her and begged her to go on a date with him up to 10 times in order to get to know each other. But she cannot agree to his request. She wanted an end to the whole thing, so she insisted on rejecting the proposal. While returning home, she saw her crush on the street and tried to hide from him. Since she was wearing makeup and expensive clothes, she didn't want him to catch her. If he saw her with a face full of makeup, he would think she went out on a date with someone else. As she hid from him, she saw a car in front of her and got in without caring. The car belonged to the man. When she realized her mistake, she tried to get out of the car, but he stopped her and insisted on marrying her. She then told him he was cheesy and looked like an Archaeopteryx. Hari got home and recounted the event to her rich friend. They laughed about it, and the rich friend finally decided to confess and come clean to the man. On the next day at work, Hari ran into the man and tried to run from him, but she bumped into another worker and tripped. Her slippers accidentally flew from her feet and hit the man, which resulted in a nosebleed. She saw the nosebleed but didn't want him to recognize her face, so she ran away. He began to chase her around the company. She ran into an elevator and he got in before it closed. She hid her face and apologized for causing the nosebleed. He was initially angry at her, but when he saw her employee ID, he remembered her for the proposal she once made. He also commended her. She thanked him and left without revealing her face. The rich friend contacted the man and set up a meeting. As she drove to the meetup location, a car bumped into her and she stepped down to meet the driver. It turned out that the driver was the handsome man she had fallen in love with. She gave him her business card and persuaded him to contact her. But the handsome man was Taemu's secretary. He looked at the card and asked her if she was faking her identity. When she clarified that she was the real owner of the business card, Taemu stepped out and introduced himself. She then realized that her secret had been exposed. Inside the restaurant, she confessed to Taemu that she had hired an actress from an agency to impersonate her for the dates. But he was smart. He asked her a question that made her reveal that she was actually friends with the imposter. He threatened to expose the matter to both their families unless she brings the imposter to him. He is angry that Hari wasted his time, and he wanted revenge. The rich friend is confused about what to do. She took Hari to a luxurious store and bought new clothes. She also did her makeup and took her to a restaurant. Hari thought it was a reward for the job she did, but the friend suddenly revealed that the man would be coming to the restaurant to meet Hari. After saying this, the friend ran away. Hari was shocked and didn't know what to do. She packed her belongings and prepared to run away, but saw the man at the entrance of the restaurant. She turned to put on a disguise, but some coupons fell out of her bag. She bent to pick them up, but saw a hand helping her. The man picked up the coupons and read them. He learned that her family owned a local fried chicken shop. The coupon also had the address to her family's house. He asked her how much she was paid to act as an imposter, and she revealed the amount. He got angry and can't believe he was scammed for such a small amount. She explained she needed money for debts and apologized for wasting his time. She also promised to help him if he ever needed her favor. He asked for her name to save on his contact, but she gave him a fake name. When Tae-moo told the chairman that he had canceled the marriage plans, the chairman began to set him up with different women. He would go on a date with up to 10 women in a day. He even had to fly to Japan for a date which caused him to have a nosebleed. Since none of the dates with the women worked, the chairman prepared a longer list of dates. The chairman was determined to find him a partner. Tae-moo felt exhausted and lied to the chairman that he had already found a woman to marry. He said the woman was his ex, and he had just gotten back with her. The chairman was excited about the news and wanted to meet the woman. Tae-moo called Hari, and they met for a meeting. He begged her to pretend to date and marry him. According to him, she had proved her acting skills and was suitable to act as his pretend girlfriend. Hari was shocked at his request and turned him down. But he then promised to pay her double of what she was paid by her rich friend. He would pay each time she pretended in front of the chairman. Hari was tempted by the offer. She owed over 3 million won in student debt and had a negative account with credit card debt and collateral loan. But the risk of accepting the offer was too high. He didn't know she was an employee at his company, and she didn't want to be discovered by him or the chairman. She contemplated several times as he drove her home, but decided to reject the offer. The chairman kept bugging Tae-moo to set up a date to meet the woman. So he drove to her family's house in the middle of the night to beg her to reconsider his offer. He gave her a contract and a file containing information about himself. She rejected him again and told him to find someone else for the job. As she walked back, he chased her to the front of her house. When she saw her brother returning, she begged and pushed the man to go home. But he tripped on his leg. She tried to catch him before he fell, but they ended up falling on each other, which led to an accidental kiss. She also knocked him unconscious when she tried to hide from her brother. Seeing the situation, she finally decided to sign the contract with him to avoid being sued. The contract stipulated that she would have to pay hundreds times more if it was breached. After signing the contract, they exchanged information with each other. She spent days and nights trying to memorize information about the man. They met again to go over the script and tie all loose ends to avoid mistakes. She formulated a story where they were under the rain and fell in love, but he told her it was implausible because he hated rain, and the chairman would suspect that the story was untrue. Hari continued to avoid the man at work, but fate had other plans for her. One day, her research team was asked to find a suitable chef for a project. She recommended her crush, who was a great chef, and was instructed to write a presentation on the chef. She spent the night making the presentation. It was a detailed presentation, so the team leader instructed her to present it personally to the company executives. Hari tried to pass on the responsibility to someone else, but the leader insisted that she present it herself. Tae-moo was part of the company executives. She didn't want to be discovered by him, so she made herself unrecognizable and presented her proposal. It was accepted by executives, so she ran to share the news with her crush. But she found him kissing a girl. It turns out he had gotten back with his ex. Hari is devastated and takes some time to put together her emotions. Because she was distracted, she bumped into a stranger, and the presentation files fell to the ground. At the same moment, she received a phone call from Tae-moo. As she picked the call, the phone slipped and fell into a drainage. This set off her emotions, and she broke down in tears. He heard her cry and wondered what was wrong with her. The next day was the day she met with the chairman. She was worried about being discovered, but Tae-moo told her to act like she actually loved him. Hari was good at the job. She tried to get on the chairman's good side and even lied that Tae-moo had once entered the rain to stop her from breaking up with him. The chairman was surprised to hear this. Since Tae-moo hated the rain, he must have loved her enough to enter the rain. Although her acting was perfect, Tae-moo criticized her for bringing up the topic of rain. But this did stop her from putting up a flawless act. She agreed to eat dumplings with the chairman, and while they chatted, her handbag fell and revealed a concert ticket. Her crush had given her the tickets on her birthday and had told her to go with someone else. The chairman saw the date of the concert was today and persuaded Tae-moo to go with Hari to the concert. He even followed them to the concert venue and made sure they got in. Hari was happy to attend the concert of her favorite artist. In one of the segments of the concert, the artist would pick a random letter a fan had sent and read it aloud. Coincidentally, he chose a letter Hari's crush had written to her. In the letter, the crush thanked her for being a good friend and wished that she found a boyfriend. Everyone started clapping because they thought Tae-moo was her boyfriend. The crush had also requested a special song for her. This made her teary, and Tae-moo gave her his handkerchief. Hari was still emotional after the concert, so they decided to get dinner. While making a phone call, she got hit by a handball, which left a swelling on her left eye. She tried to reduce the swelling the next day, but a bruise mark remained around her eyes. When she entered her company's elevator, she tried to cover it up with a patch, but Tae-moo walked into the elevator. Although he saw the eye patch, he still couldn't recognize her, since she wasn't on makeup. Hari continued to avoid him in all possible ways. Her team had a food testing program, but she lied about having a stomachache to avoid running into him. Even when he visited her crush's restaurant, she sneakily crawled out. But Tae-moo wasn't the only one she had to hide from. Her team traveled to a filming location to shoot a commercial for a product. The chairman was around the location and stopped by to cheer them on. She used her hair to cover her face, but luck wasn't on her side. The chairman found a ringing phone next to his seat and picked it up. Since it was her phone, she was called to collect it. She covered her face with her hair and snatched the phone from the chairman. Tae-moo was calling her on the phone, so she ran into the toilet to pick it up. He was calling to remind her of their upcoming fake anniversary. Meanwhile, the chairman had a stomach and needed to relieve himself in a toilet. When she discovered he was at the door of the toilet, she refused to open it. He tried pulling the handle, but she kept struggling to close it, which led him to fall down. She eventually apologized for her actions, while still covering her face, but the chairman noted her name. Tae-moo was also close to discovering her secret. The company had sent the commercial video she filmed. He watched the behind-the-scenes videos, but still couldn't recognize her. On the day of the fake anniversary, he took her to a luxurious clothing store and five-star restaurant to put up a show for the chairman. After the fake display of affection, he drove her home. While he was returning home, he found her purse on the passenger seat and drove back to return it. But the scene he saw shocked him to the core. Hari's chef crush had come to visit her home. Tae-moo saw them together and was confused for a while. But when she turned to dispose of some trash, he saw her face without makeup, and it looked exactly like his employee. During their numerous dates, he had always met her with a face full of makeup. But whenever he ran into her at the company, she had no makeup. This made him never suspect that the two people he met were actually one person. He opened her purse to look at her ID. It made him confirm that Hari worked at his company. He was too shocked to personally return the purse, so he dropped it at the front of her house. He was even still in doubt and browsed through his employees' records. Tae-moo was heartbroken that he had deceived him, and he also didn't like the idea of fake dating his employee, so he made a plan to expose her secret in front of everyone. But before that, he kept giving her a hard time at her job. First, he asked her out on an abrupt date. She was in the middle of her job, but made an excuse to meet him. He asked her different trap questions, but she managed to pass them all, which made him angry. He then called her team at the office for a meeting. Hari, who was with him, quickly made an excuse to return to work. He rejected her food ideas and gave her an impossible task to do. She only felt he was being difficult, but never suspected that her cover had been blown. For his big plan to expose her, he invited her to act as his girlfriend in the company's upcoming founding anniversary ceremony. She rejected him by making up different excuses, but he insisted that the only way to avoid attending was to pay the contract's penalty fee. Since she couldn't pay the fees, She had no choice but to attend it. But there was another problem. She had been given a special award at her workplace, which would be presented to her at the ceremony by the CEO, who was Tae-moo. She was happy for the award, but sad at the same time. She couldn't split herself into two, with one part attending the ceremony as his girlfriend, and the other attending as his employee. Her secret was bound to be exposed. She made up a plan to avoid attending the ceremony as an employee. But he cut off all her escape route by inviting her parents to watch her accept the award. Now she's forced to receive the award. She was trapped and knew that her secret would be exposed to everyone at the ceremony. So she got drunk and cried bitterly while drinking with her work colleagues. She was so drunk that she called Tae-moo on the phone to beg him to let her go. He knew she was drunk and he quickly drove over to her location to take care of her. When she saw him, she thought it was a dream and begged for forgiveness. She confessed to him and explained the reason she deceived him. He stayed with her until her brother came looking for her. He was moved by her confession. He also realized that he had slowly fallen in love with her. So the next, he called her number and fired her. He no longer needed her service as a fake girlfriend. She was shocked initially, but became extremely happy. She didn't have to worry about splitting herself up to attend the ceremony. Although she recalled seeing him the previous night, she thought it was a dream because her brother confirmed that he had picked her up and saw no one with her. On the day of the ceremony, he went on a business trip to avoid his feelings for her, and she ended up attending the ceremony with her family. Although he was far away from her, he kept seeing her face in every woman he met. Hari felt like a burden had been removed from her and was constantly happy while working. But she received a sudden phone call from the chairman, asking her to come over to his house for dinner. She arrived at the house, but met Tae-moo at the entrance. Although he was shocked to see her, he grabbed and told her to follow him somewhere. Hari was confused, but immediately stopped in her tracks because he had called her by her real name, and not the fake name she gave to him. That was how she found out that he knew her secret. He took her to a police station because her rich friend had found a hidden camera in her room, and Tae-moo's secretary had helped in catching the perpetrator. His secretary had informed him about the incident, so he took Hari to the station. After returning from settling the matter, she had a moment to herself and realized that he had been giving her a hard time at home because he knew the truth. She misinterpreted his actions and thought he wanted to fire her. So she spent her days avoiding him at the company. One day, he found her hiding from him under a table and sent a message to meet up at a restaurant. Tae-moo had finally come to terms with his feelings for her. He admitted to his secretary that he loved her and wanted to marry her. He bought an expensive necklace and prepared a grand plan to confess his feelings to her. So he invited her to a 5-star restaurant and instructed the waiters to walk in with a beautiful cake once he gave them a signal. Hari was unaware of his plans. Once she arrived at the restaurant, she interrupted his speech and presented her resignation letter. She thought he invited her to fire her, so she prepared the resignation letter. But she didn't want to leave her job, so she tried to convince him that she was competent. She even went as far as giving him a document containing her business ideas for his company. The waiter saw his hand on his head and thought it was the signal. When they tried to come out with the cake, he quickly signaled them, "Abort the plan." Meanwhile, she was focused on showing him her proposals. He was frustrated with the situation and complained to his secretary. The secretary advised him to change his pursuit method because Hari saw him as her boss. So he had to change her mindset concerning him. To get started, he invited her to his office and tore her resignation letter. He was giving her a second chance to prove herself, and she promised to do anything, even agreeing to go to the movies with him because he lied about wanting to discuss a project with her. He wanted some time alone with her, so he booked out an entire movie theater, but his plan got ruined after some employees at the company found Hari. She forced him to sneak away to avoid being seen by the employee. But he didn't give up. He browsed through her social media accounts and found a post of her wishing to travel to a town in the countryside. He then made up a lie and invited her to the town for a fake research trip. Throughout the trip, he tried getting closer to her, but she was too focused on work. He then arranged for a fake burger stand by the seaside to get closer to her, and it worked. They bought burgers and spent quality time together, and he got to know about her childhood story and dreams. While driving back to their hotel, it started raining and he began to panic. His trauma resurfaced, so he couldn't concentrate on driving. He commanded her to get down from his car, and he drove off, leaving her in the rain. She was utterly confused, but found a damaged umbrella to cover herself from the rain. Since her phone battery had died, she couldn't order a taxi and had to trek to the hotel. When the rain stopped, Tae-moo recovered from his trauma attack and realized his mistake. So, he drove back to find her. His parents had died in a car accident when he was little, and he witnessed the accident happen under a heavy rainfall. Since then, he had developed an intense fear of rain. Meanwhile, Hari had cleaned up herself in the hotel and went down to the lobby to get the phone she kept with the receptionist for charging. But she ran into her old classmates, who were shocked to see her at the hotel. They had planned a reunion trip to the town. Hari had been invited, but she turned down the request since her crush and his girlfriend would be attending. Now they saw her at the hotel and asked if she had come with her boyfriend. Tae-moo appeared from nowhere and announced to them that he was her boyfriend. Although she was shocked at his behavior, she played along with him. He showed off his wealth and acted protective and clingy towards her, making the group of friends jealous. They never believed she would have a boyfriend and had mocked her behind her back. Tae-moo knew about this and flaunted his wealth in their face. He upgraded their hotel room to a VIP suite and even gave them a ride in the chairman's ship. He acted lovey-dovey around her and did well cosplaying as her boyfriend. When he was asked how he fell in love with her, he fabricated a story of how he met her and fell in love at first sight. The chef's expression changed, like he was unhappy to hear the story. His girlfriend noticed this and got worried. While on the ship, the chef confronted Tae-moo and warned him against dating Hari. Although he sounded he cared for Hari, his choice of words made it seem like Hari did not deserve to have a rich boyfriend. Tae-moo defended Hari and warned the chef to never look down on her. They had fun fishing on the ship, but it came to an end when Hari almost fell from dizziness. Tae-moo was so worried and drove her out for treatment. While returning from the hospital, she apologized for wasting his time and stepped out of the car. But Tae-moo has had enough of her apologies. He couldn't contain his emotions anymore, so he also got down from the car to stop her. He confessed his love for her and wanted them to date with the intention of marriage. She was extremely shocked. She could not process the confession, so he gave her some time to think and give him a response. But instead of giving a response, she kept avoiding him at the company. After 1 week of waiting for her response, he became restless and went in search of her on her floor. She was shooting a product ad with the chef when she saw him watching her from afar. She thought he had come to get a response, so she panicked, causing her lab coat to be stained. She went to the restroom to clean up, but he waited outside the entrance for her. He wanted to have a talk with her. Meanwhile, the chairman made a visit to the company to meet Tae-moo. Since Tae-moo had ended the contract relationship with Hari, he told the chairman that he had broken up with her. He gave no explanation for the breakup, so the chairman went to the company for an explanation. He almost caught Tae-moo together with Hari, but the two had run away to hide in an empty building. There, Tae-moo asked for a response to his confession. She was worried about the difference in their social class. Since she worked at his company, she was also worried about what people would think. So she rejected him and told to look for someone else. But Tae-moo was determined. He told her he'll never give up on his love for her. This made her emotional, and she ended up initiating a kiss with him. When she came to her senses, she apologized and ran away. Although she spent each night thinking about the kiss, she refused to pick up his phone calls. But he eventually got her to sit in his car for a discussion. She told him to pretend like the kiss never happened, but he demanded her to take responsibility for initiating the kiss. He requested a meal as compensation for the kiss. She agreed, but regretted after seeing the expensive price on the menu. They had small talks while eating, and he even played the piano at the restaurant for her. He ended up paying for the meal, so she still had to compensate him. He asked her to spend the day with him at an amusement park. They drove the electric vehicle, rode carousel, and had fun. But it came to an end when she received a call that her father had been rushed to the hospital. Her father had ruptured his appendicitis, so Tae-moo accompanied her to the hospital. She introduced him to her family as her co-worker, and they were happy to meet him. He even upgraded her father's hospital room to a VIP room. Her mother was pleased with him and sat him down for a little conversation. She even badmouthed the CEO of her daughter's company, not knowing the man in front of her was actually the CEO. Meanwhile, The chef had gone to clean up and take care of the chicken shop since everyone was at the hospital. While cleaning, he had a small injury, and Hari's brother told him to get a bandage in Hari's room. He found the bandage, but it slipped and fell into an open drawer. As he reached to pick it up, he found the fake relationship contract and read it. This made him realize the nature of Hari and Taemu's relationship. He thought she had been forced into the contract, so he went in search of Hari. The chef found her with Taemu and angrily gave a blow to Taemu. A fight was about to break out, so Hari stepped in on time after seeing a police car nearby. She pulled the chef aside and told Taemu to return home. Since Taemu was an influential person, it would make it to the news if the police caught him fighting. She took the chef to a coffee shop and requested an explanation. He told her about the contract and his worries for her, also reminding her that the relationship with Taemu would never work due to their different social class. She told him to never interfere in her business and asked that he apologize to Taemu for the hit. The company organized a sports competition for employees. Anyone who won the competition would have a chance to go on a one-on-one dinner with the CEO. Hari had won the first round of the competition but broke her hand in the process. But when she heard about the prize for winning, she continued with the competition. After a fierce battle with the opponent, she eventually won the prize. That evening, she went on a team dinner to celebrate her victory. While drinking, she heard from her coworker that Taemu had agreed on a date with a chaebol's family daughter. She became restless, and after the dinner, she called up Taemu and begged him to not attend the date. But Taemu had no intention of attending the date. He had sent his secretary to replace and explain the situation to the date. He told Hari he was in front of her house, so she directed the taxi driver to change direction. But there was heavy traffic on the road, so both Hari and Taemu exited their cars. They ran on foot to meet each other midway. Hari confessed her feelings to him, and they shared a deep kiss. After confirming their feelings for each other, they entered into a relationship and started acting lovey-dovey with each other. Every morning, he would give her a call and invite her to breakfast at his home. He would prepare breakfast for her and make small talk. Afterwards, he would offer to drive her to the company, but she would decline his offer since she didn't want to expose their relationship. One day, she was in a hurry to meet him, so she mistakenly wore mismatched shoes. That day at work, he sent a shoe delivery to her office and made the delivery man announce that the gift was from her boyfriend. Her coworkers were curious, but she lied to them that her rich friend was pulling a prank on her. Taemu would even visit her office floor to show her cute love letters he had written while working. Since she had won the sports competition, she went on a date with him in a local tteokbokki shop she had chosen. The shop owner knew her, so she introduced Taemu as her boyfriend. This made him extremely happy, to the extent that he volunteered to pay for all the customers' meals. But their happy relationship was short-lived. Taemu's secretary went in place of him to a blind date. The secretary explained to the girl that Taemu had no interest in her, but instead, the girl became obsessed with him. She waited outside the secretary's house just to talk to him, and even visited the company to confess her love for him. The chairman witnessed this scene and realized that Taemu had not attended the blind date. He chased Taemu around to beat him up. While in the elevator, the chairman had a running stomach and stopped at a floor to use the toilet. Coincidentally, it was Hari's business floor. Two of her coworkers were having a lover's quarrel, and the woman had run into the men's restroom to chase after her man. Hari followed them into the men's restroom to settle the matter, but she was knocked down to the floor. At the same time, the chairman walked into the restroom. Hari heard his voice and quickly locked herself in one of the toilets, but she forgot to pick up her shoes that had been removed from her legs. The chairman saw the shows and immediately suspected that a woman was in the toilet. He knocked on the door and forced her to come out. When he saw her employee ID, he remembered her as the woman who had also locked him out of the toilet. He requested an apology letter, and she had to write a long letter to him. To make her feel better, the coworkers invited her out for dinner. Taemu overheard their plan and asked to join them. The dinner atmosphere was awkward, but after having drinks, it lightened up a bit. One of the coworkers got drunk and noticed Hari and Taemu holding hands under the table. But no one believed her words since she was so drunk. After the dinner, the team dispersed, so Hari and Taemu were left alone. They were about to hold hands, but the chairman appeared and questioned why they were together. The chairman was driving through the street and sighted Taemu standing with a woman, so he walked over to question them. When he realized that the woman beside Taemu was Hari, he became angry and started questioning their relationship. But the co-workers who dispersed forgot a phone, so they returned to get it. They saw the chairman and explained that Tae-moo had treated the team to dinner. This made the chairman drop his suspicion. But that was only the beginning of their problems. Hari and her rich friend had gone on an outing to the orphanage with Tae-moo and his secretary. After a fun time at the orphanage, Hari received a phone call that her brother had stolen money from a cash register. The team followed her to the chicken shop, and they tried to contact her brother's number. Hari's parents had gone out to attend a funeral, so there was no one at the chicken shop. A customer got in and begged them to open up the restaurant, so they teamed up to prepare meals for the customers. At night, they gathered together to have dinner, but Hari mistakenly spilled a drink on Tae-moo's shirt, so she took him into the house to clean up. She gave him her brother's clothes, and while preparing to go downstairs, she heard her parents' voices. They had returned from the funeral. Hari hid Tae-moo in her room and went downstairs to her mother like nothing happened. And when they were distracted, she sneaked him out of the house. She was yet to tell her parents about her relationship with Tae-moo, so she hid and sneaked him out. Tae-moo was sad about this and talked to her about it. But they were interrupted when her brother caught her with him. They admitted their relationship, and she begged her brother to keep it a secret from the parents. Hari and Tae-moo continued to build their relationship with frequent dates, but one day it started raining in the middle of their date. Fortunately, she brought an umbrella to shield him from the rain. Seeing the rain, she recommended that they catch a train instead of driving. She also recommended that they go to her favorite flower shop. He ended up buying her a beautiful bouquet. They went to have a meal in a restaurant with beautiful scenery. The truth was, Hari had once overheard some employees talking about Tae-moo's trauma. His parents had died in a car accident on a rainy day, so he couldn't drive and function well whenever it rained. In the middle of their meal, Tae-moo realized her intentions. She had recommended the subway because she knew that he couldn't drive under the rain. She had also taken him to the flower shop to make him forget it was raining. So, while walking home, he thanked her for her efforts. She's understanding towards his trauma, which made him secure in their love. After a while, she informed that she had other appointments and left him early. It turned out that the chairman had discovered the truth of their relationship and scheduled a meeting with her. The chairman also knew that she faked her identity and deceived him into believing that she was actually Tae-moo's girlfriend. Hari confessed everything to him and apologized. The chairman instructed her to end her relationship with Tae-moo. When he stood up to leave, he received a phone call. Tae-moo had gotten into a car accident. He was driving at a fast speed after finding out the chairman was having a talk with Hari. Hari rushed to the hospital. The chairman tried to make her leave, but she insisted on seeing Tae-moo before leaving. Thankfully, the accident wasn't too serious. Tae-moo had only broken his arm. She saw that he was okay and decided to leave at the chairman's request. But Tae-moo stopped her. He confessed to the chairman that he loved her, and their feelings were not fake. The chairman was angry at both of them. He called Tae-moo for a private talk and persuaded him to break things off with Hari. She had lied and pretended to be someone else, so the chairman had a bad impression of her. But Tae-moo asked for the blame to be put on him. He insisted that if he stopped seeing Hari, he would never agree to date or marry anyone in the future. When Hari was returning home, it started raining again, so she stopped the car to return to Tae-moo's side. The chairman saw her and asked why she had returned. She explained that she wanted to accompany Tae-moo at the hospital since it was raining. Tae-moo was touched by her actions. They made small talk, and he explained the circumstances of his parents' death to her. She ended up sleeping by his side in the hospital. When she woke up the following day, she quickly ran home and tried to tiptoe to her room, but her mother caught her and thought she was already dressed for work. Hari pretended to be dressed up and walked out. Outside, she met her rich friend. The friend had bad news to share with her. The company had uploaded a video of Hari and her chef Crush advertising a product. The behind-the-scenes video had gone viral, and the comments started shipping Hari together with the chef. The chef's girlfriend wasn't too happy about this, and went to the internet to post that Hari had a 7-year crush on the chef and that she was dating the president of the company. The online post made it seem like she was two-timing the chef and president. This caused a negative reaction online, and the company decided to remove Hari and her team from a project they were working on. Everyone at the company was shocked that she was dating the CEO, and the environment around the company became uptight. But her work team stood up for her against slanders, which made her feel loved. Tae-moo was unaware of the news since his phone had been taken away from him at the hospital. He called her through a phone booth to check up on her. He noticed that her voice sounded down and tried to uplift her spirits. As he brought up the topic of marrying her, the call disconnected due to network issues. He returned to his hospital room and found the chairman. The chairman had read the news about Hari and wanted Tae-moo to leave the country and head one of the company's branches in New York. Actually, the chairman had no problems with him dating Hari, but since she was an employee at the company, their relationship could cause unnecessary rumors and speculations. The chairman wanted Tae-moo to travel abroad until everything settled down, but Tae-moo rejected the offer. The chairman then went to the company and had a meeting with Hari. He wanted her to either transfer to a branch in another city or resign. Hari insisted she wouldn't resign since she was valuable to the company. Meanwhile, Tae-moo heard about the news from nurses at the hospital. He became angry at his secretary for keeping him in the dark. He went to find Hari at the company, but found the chairman there. He threatened to resign if Hari gets fired. He also went in search of Hari at her home, but found her brother. He borrowed the brother's phone, but was discovered by Harry's parents. The brother eventually revealed to the parents that Hari was dating Tae-moo. Hari took a walk around the city after the meeting with the chairman. She was trying to clear out her head. When she looked at her phone, she saw missed calls and called back. Tae-moo was then able to reach her, and they met each other. That night, they went to a hotel and slept with each other. When he dropped her home the next morning, her parents saw them acting lovey-dovey and went to beat her up. She apologized for not telling them earlier, and also introduced Tae-moo as her boyfriend, who was also the president of her company. Tae-moo was able to convince her parents to accept him, and even told them that he was dating Hari with the intention of marriage. He also had a private conversation with Hari's father and promised to take care of Hari, regardless of the obstacles they face. At work, he would make up an excuse to check up on her. One day when he was with Hari at work, he received a phone call that the chairman had collapsed. He was about to rush to the hospital, but overheard the ongoing call. The doctor had forgotten to end the call, so Tae-moo discovered that the chairman had teamed up with the doctors to lie about the collapse. The intention was for Tae-moo to visit the chairman since he had refused to talk to him. Hari decided to go to the hospital instead of Tae-moo to the hospital. The chairman was angry to see, since he expected to meet Tae-moo. But regardless of his harsh attitude towards Hari, she continued to care for him. She helped him go to the restroom and even brought his favorite tea. She had knowledge of his interests and even made conversations with him. The chairman forgot about his anger and engaged her. He saw her singing along with the music on TV and told her to continue because he enjoyed her voice. It seemed like everything was going in the right direction until the doctors revealed that the chairman's blood vessels had weakened and he needed surgery. But there was no treatment for it in Korea, so they had to travel abroad. Tae-moo asked Hari to go with him to the United States, but she turned down his offer. She was concerned about the rumors and told she'll wait for him. Tae-moo eventually accompanied the father for treatment abroad, and they began a long-distance relationship. 1 year later, she was still working as a food researcher at the company. One of her product proposals had gone viral and boosted the company's annual sales to trillions. She was still in a long-distance relationship with Tae-moo, and they would often communicate on video calls. One day, her brother showed her a dating news between Tae-moo and a woman. Hari tried to contact Tae-moo for an explanation, but his number was unavailable. She took a leave from work and prepared to travel to the United States. But she surprisingly met Tae-moo. He had returned to Korea and was visiting her. She asked for an explanation about the dating news, and he clarified that it was not true. They were happy to see each other and went for a walk. He then proposed to her and she said yes. Thanks for watching to the end. Your support means the world to me. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more Korean drama recaps.